Okay, looks like we had a pretty good return factor from this morning. Or else, I do see a few new faces, so some of them didn't make it back. Maybe they're still out on Luke 6:10. So let's go ahead and get the 1 o'clock session started. Hopefully everybody's turned back in their goodie bags that they incorrectly picked up this morning. Raquel told me over lunch she's still about 7 or 8 shy. So anyway. Yeah, according to her. Okay, we're here for the 1 o'clock panel. It's called the District Engineer Panel. That's the best name we could come up with. So let me introduce our panel. I'm going to start to my far left, Mr. Paul Reitz, District Engineer in the Yoakum District. So you head west on I-10 and cross the Brazos River, and you're in Yoakum territory. Paul graduated from Texas A&M in 1995. No whoops. He's worked in the Corpus Christi and Yoakum districts. He's been with TxDOT for 22 years. And he is, like I said, he's currently the district engineer in Yoakum. Next to Paul, moving towards me, is Tucker Ferguson, district engineer in Beaumont. Tucker has been with TxDOT. He became the Beaumont district engineer in September 2011. And I can remember that because Tucker was coming in as I was walking out, so we barely met each other. Tucker has the 8-county region that is the Beaumont district. What also I forgot to mention with Paul has the 11-county region that is the Yoakum district. Tucker had a prior life to coming to TxDOT, and it was up in the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT. He had over a 20-year career up there, and I believe his job when he left PennDOT to come south to a little better climate was he was a district engineer for PennDOT in the Harrisburg and Allentown areas. He's a graduate from the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. Okay, not Jonestown, Johnston. All right. And Tucker is he is a registered professional engineer in Texas and Pennsylvania. So it's good to hear you were registered while you were district engineer in Pennsylvania. Okay, then last but not least is Quincy Allen, district engineer here in Houston. So I gave you county counts. We went from 11 to 8. Quincy's only got 6. All right, but it's all relative. Okay, so Quincy has been with the department for 32 years. I still remember the day when Quincy started here at the Houston District because he was that cat that had that petroleum engineer degree. So I couldn't figure out how that was going to work. And Quincy, he figured it out real quick. He went back to University of Houston and got a civil engineering degree. So, but Quincy was going to rise up through the tides no matter what kind of degree he had. Quincy's born and raised here in Houston. He and I might be the only ones in the room that can raise your hand and say that. I don't know, is anybody else born and raised in Houston? Oh, okay, well, y'all are showing off. All right. But look how many hands didn't come up. All right.
How many years?
Quincy. How many?
I said, how many years? Over here holding up.
Well, the question was born and raised, so I'm assuming, yeah. Quincy's, I think, most proud of, he's very proud of his wife Janet, and I know she's as proud of him on most days as she can be, but he's very proud of his two sons who are well on their way in their lives of their own, making their way, but they're both Eagle Scouts, as was Quincy, correct? Okay, so quite an accomplishment. So that's our district engineer panel for today. What I left out of each of the bios, just because it's similar to a certain extent, but each of these guys are responsible for developing the work programs to meet the transportation needs, including construction, maintenance, traffic control. They work as consultants, lesser paid consultants, but they work as consultants with their staff and other staff on developing, on programming, planning, construction, design, maintenance, right-of-way, all of it. So that's all under the heading of project development. So each of these guys have those duties. Now, and that's where I'm back to the relativity part of it. Those duties in one district, they're the same duties. They may not be for as many projects as another district, but one district may only have a third of the FTEs as the other guy. So they're doing just as much, but they got less people doing it. So it's just as difficult of a job. So let's move into our program. I've got a few questions that hopefully will spur some conversation. And these questions are not going to be for any one particular district engineer as I state them. And so I'm hoping I'll have a robust conversation between all three of them, or at least two of them anyway. Didn't matter which two. The part of this program is in fact, I'm going to read off. The district engineers are held responsible for project delivery within their geographic areas of responsibility. What's important to them as local government sponsors interact with TxDOT staff and the MPO towards selection of their projects for the UTP, TIP, and ultimate project letting and construction. So let's start with then, let's discuss what is important project development task from the district engineer perspective. Okay, each of these guys have staff that works on this, including the district engineer. So what's important to you on the project development side of the house from your perspectives? And everybody, y'all don't have to go at once. Somebody can just jump out there.
Good afternoon, everyone. I guess the first thing that really jumps out at me is it's important to us to have good partners. And we're very thankful for the partnerships that are represented here in this room and the partnerships we have with folks that were not able to make this meeting. We need you to help be part of an amazing transportation program, projects that we need to deliver to our traffic public. Getting down to more of a practical answer to that question, choosing the right project at the right time and then delivering it on time. Okay. And on budget. Very important things. I guess it may be oversimplified, but right project on time. On budget.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I agree with exactly what Quincy said, and at a high level, on time, on budget, and certainly quality. And that brings in a piece of all of our partners, the local governments, the consultants that we use, the contractors that we use, the inspectors that are on the project, the lab technicians running tests on materials. We expect to have quality throughout the entire process. And we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our employees, we owe it to the taxpayers to make sure that we do it right the first time, so we're not in there doing a lot of rework, and we want the product to last the expected lifetime that a roadway or a bridge should last. And safety. When we're out there on the roadway, safety is a huge factor for us. We're out there on the roadway, we design pretty detailed traffic control plans, and that's to protect not only the motorists, but our workers. And there's probably not a week goes by we don't see reports, not only in Texas, but all across the country, where there's been construction workers hit and killed, and we take all of those very personally. So we design the projects for quality, for safety, and try to make the construction go as efficiently as possible, because we understand that it is inconvenient, but we want to minimize the amount of time we're on the roadway and put our plans together to reflect that. And as Quincy said, it takes all the partners to work together to come to those common goals with our development partners, our consultants, and our local project sponsors.
Okay, I think we got that covered. I'm a local government. I've got a project that was selected by the MPO. It was selected. Now all I have to do is get it developed. I've even got a letting date in the tip that I'm shooting for, but I'm running into all kind of problems. I can't get my AFA done. My right-of-way, there's more right-of-way than I thought I needed. This pesky utility is there. Nobody knew about it. I can't get anybody to own it and move it. So my project is stalled. It's showing signs of stress and potential failure. I'm thinking I'm going to get called to the principal's office and have to tell Alan Clark why I'm not going to be able to make it. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I think I need to call the district engineer. Is that what I need to do?
I guess I'll answer that one. Not that we don't want to be, our closed door to anybody calling, but the first call I would make would be my staff to see where we're at. I mean, we just don't, it's not something we keep track of on a day-to-day basis. So in the rural realm, our TP&D would be a big key player in getting that project moving forward and developing. And I think a big part of communication up front is finding out who is actually in charge of what. That way you can get to a point where it stalls and you kind of know to go to that next person to figure it out. But I would never say don't call the DE, because like I said, I think we all kind of want to be open to calls, and if there's problems, we'll do what we can. But more than likely, the first call we're going to make is going to be to somebody on staff to see where the project's at and what's going on. So that's why I would kind of recommend that communication up early to figure out where the chain of command is, and just kind of follow it up the chain as you're running problems with it.
Paul, that's a good start to this discussion. Go ahead, Quincy.
Yeah, thank you, Delvin. Thank you, Paul. You're spot on. Whether you're in a rural district or metro, I guess, TP&D is a key player, most valuable player. There's a saying on some of these aggressive construction projects, and now even, I guess, more so on some of the stuff that we're pushing really hard on in design. Bad news needs to travel fast. You got a problem, raise your hand, let's work on it together. In a district like ours, chances are we may have encountered something similar to what you're dealing with. We may have some ideas that can help you. Have you thought about this? What about some sewer work? What if you did this? Worst comes to worst, we go with you to see Alan and we start looking at, all right, can we adjust the schedule a little bit, give you a little more time, maybe move somebody up to take your spot and slide you back a little bit. The worst thing you can do is sit there wringing your hands, hoping that something gets better, and day after day starts to tick by. I don't know, fired up if you got something that's keeping you awake or sidetracked. Let's work together on it.
Okay, so that was the answer I was looking for. Any of these guys, they will return your call anytime. But like Paul and Quincy said, first sign of trouble, I don't want you necessarily to think I'm in trouble, I need to call the DE and he's going to deliver me from this problem. You got a lot of folks you can work through, including their staffs or HGAC. Don't wait till David Wardlow hands out one of those red, green, black balls, whatever those ratings are at the TPC meeting to show where all the projects, where they are schedule-wise. Once you're dependent on that report and you got a red ball on there, you're in trouble. Red is not good. Okay. So, having said all that, when should I get the DE involved, if ever?
Okay, it's my turn to talk about when to get the DE involved. As both Quincy and Paul did say, that we have a number of people within our districts that are working on different pieces of the project. But I would say when the sponsor or the consultant or the partner is not getting any response from the TxDOT person internally, and they're dragging their feet and they need an answer to make a decision quickly and it's not happening for you, that's a time when you can call the district engineer and say, look, we have some deadlines we need to meet, we have to get this to a city council or to a commissioner's court meeting and get a vote on it, and something is sensitive time-wise and you need a decision and you're just not getting a response from our staff. That would be one time where you would want to get us involved. I'd say another piece where we would want to get involved if there's some other outside influences that are getting involved in the project. I'll say maybe local or elected officials. We deal with them very frequently. Most of us are, I'm sure most of them are on first-hand basis with their district engineers, and we deal with them on a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And you can call them up anytime and try to smooth things out if there's anything on their mind that are coming through you. So those are the first two that come to my mind that Delvin that we get involved.
Anything else? That's the two biggies. None of you can control your bosses, your elected officials. If you work in county government, so your county commissioners, your city council members, a state representative or a state senator that's got a real interest in a local project. You're working your tail off to try to get this thing developed and move forward, but you're hitting roadblocks. You're never going to tell a county commissioner, nah, you don't need to call a district engineer. They're going to do what he or she they feel like they need to do. So I'll let those kind of calls from those folks to these guys. These guys are used to handling this stuff. That's part of their DNA. That's in their job description. And they both, all of them handle it, I'm going to say for the most part, they handle it successfully. Quincy, were you reaching?
Just a little bit. If you've got something, big scope change or something might require a tip adjustment or something like that has to come before the Transportation Policy Council, you know, that's something that you probably should call DE, and he's probably going to circle up with TP and D and either David Wardlow or Alan Clark. But we got to get something before that board of 30-something elected officials representing our entire MPO. You know, we need to work together on that.
Okay, everybody in this room has most likely heard that the TxDOT Commission, was it in February or March, adopted a 10-year unified transportation plan that equated to an estimated $70 billion. In fact, this plan increased by, I think, 38 million over the previous UTP adjustment. Yeah, billion. Did I say million? Yeah, we don't talk in millions. Everything's billion. 70 billion. It increased, I believe, 38 billion. This was a direct result of the voters overwhelmingly approving Proposition 1 and Proposition 7. So these are dollars that are showing up now in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So all the real work is going on right now to get projects ready for this money arrival. So, if the commission has approved a 10-year program for $70 billion, that's plenty of money, right? There's no more money problems with TxDOT. Is that right?
It sounds like a lot, and it is. I mean, it's a big piece of the puzzle, but there's still a lot of other pieces out there, and there's a lot of other big needs out there. And it's a good start. We appreciate all that we're getting. The legislature's voting and passing the Prop 7, and still a little bit of Prop 1 left. But there's still huge needs, and I think there's still some big needs for actually more money. Like I say, we don't have the whole puzzle yet, but we've just got some pieces of it.
Well, the other thing too is the $70 billion program is a planning document, all right? It's planning. This is how much money we hope that will arrive over the next 10 years. And we've got the first 4 years laid out, but it still remains a planning document, all right? And right now we're waiting on Prop 7. I guess that first money is supposed to arrive in FY18, and then the money we've got in Prop 1, we got our biggest year ever, I guess, in the first year. And that follows a severance tax, which is a tax on people taking oil out of the ground. So if the price of oil goes down, obviously that number is going to float. The bigger thing I'd like you to take away is it's a planning document. It gives us whatever the tabletop it is to start our plan. And then as the money comes in, we prioritize the projects that we need to do.
I would just like to comment at the project level, even though the $70 billion, and it's a lot of money, let's face it, $70 billion, a lot of money in anyone's definition. But when you look at, when we set our plans out, we get 80,000 miles of road in Texas, 53-some thousand bridges, and not all of them are in great condition, either the roads or the bridges. So that's just to maintain what we currently have. If you start looking at adding some capacity or new roadways, when you start spreading out $70 billion out over 10 years, that doesn't go as far as we would like it to. And when we look at these planning projections that Quincy talked about, all of our districts have planning targets, and we have, for all the funds that we're planning for, we have projects identified that over the next 8 or 10 years will be developed to get to that point. But I can say confidently on a daily basis, even though we have all of our projects identified, we get calls or inquiries from local officials or citizens or even our own staff, or they're bringing needs to us that aren't on our planning list because there are more needs out there than there is funds. And it's sometimes hard to explain to a county commissioner or a mayor that they just see that TxDOT adopted this UTP in March that allocated all this money, and we still have needs that are to be unmet because we don't have funds to do it. So yeah, $70 billion is a lot of money, but there's a lot of needs out there as well, especially with the all of the growth in Texas and people moving here every day and congestion on the rise, especially in this metro area.
Oil has, a barrel of oil has crept back up, and at least for the time being seems fairly stable at around $50 a barrel. There was an article in the paper here in the last couple of weeks talking about rig counts in Texas is on the increase, so drilling is once again beginning, which will also then put pressure on those roads in those parts of the state that weren't made to handle those heavy truckloads and amount of traffic for all that. Keep in mind that TxDOT commissioned the 2030 committee probably 5-6 years ago, and they studied and came about with a report that said that TxDOT needed to spend it was $5 billion a year just to stay even. That was not going to reduce any congestion. That was just going to keep things even. So that spurred on then the legislature to develop the Proposition 1 which is based on, I call it the rainy day fund, and then the Prop 7. But also bear in mind, those funding sources are a heck of a lot more stable than what was there before, but they've got some unstable characteristics to them. So Quincy's point, this 70 billion is a planning number. That's if everything holds. If drilling continues at a rate that puts money into the Economic Stabilization Fund, is that what it's called, ESF? If the money goes into that, then TxDOT will get a portion of that, or the highways will. Same way with Proposition 7 is based on sales tax. So it's based on a robust economy. So as long as the economy stays robust and people are out there buying and spending money and contributing sales tax, that keeps the estimated dollars at a level then to go into Fund 6. If any of that drops off the table, drops off the cliff, that's why these are planning numbers at this point. They plan to have 70 billion available over the next 10 years. And all of you, or those of you that were here this morning, or are going to be here this afternoon, or you've been through this process before, you know how long it takes to develop a project, okay? We're not talking about 12 or 18 months and you're standing out there at a groundbreaking to start a project. Those are far and few between. Okay, for the local government project managers out in our audience, talk about, from your perspective, DEs, what the meaning of success for a project development program. How do you classify a project development program as successful?
I guess it goes back to what we said earlier, the right project at the right time, on budget. But looking out in this room, I see a lot of folks that I work with, especially those of you who help us build consensus with county commissioners, county judges, other local officials. Those sorts of things are just invaluable. We just couldn't do it without you. I give you an example. We're looking at segment B of the Grand Parkway. It's in Galveston, Missouri County. We're going to have conversations about that. What would that look like, if it became more of a viable project? And we're having contacts with county judges and mayors and things like that, trying to see, when the time is going to become right for that project. We couldn't do those sorts of things without the work that you all are doing, helping us get in contact with it. Some of you are bringing to us ideas about, what we might be able to do right away in different things. But those sorts of partnerships, and I guess that's where I started, are just invaluable to us. Thank you.
I think part of the success too is having the local support. Trying to add on what Quincy talked about, that y'all's help us a whole lot in getting the local support for a project, where it makes it a little easier to get it constructed, get it designed, get it finished. That's, I think, a big key to it, is once a project's done, is the local actually support the project and agree with what went on and what was developed.
I'd just like to add something that just popped into my mind hearing these comments.
Well, that's why you're on the panel, so you get to do that.
The light bulb went off for me, I guess. We talked about timing and quality and the right project, the right time to stay on budget. I'd like to focus on one of those factors, because it's the one that many times slides a lot for us on not just our own projects, but local projects as well. And that's the timing and the schedule. And we're very intentional on setting up our letting schedules, and we try to identify when projects are going to go to let and develop them accordingly to meet all of our milestones. And that does a couple things for us to be successful. I mean, it manages our cash flow, so we know when construction is going to begin and when the funds coming into the district and paying out to contractors is going to match that cash flow projection. But it also does a lot for being able to hit our schedules, really helps on our contracting community. Because as we lay out our 1 year, our 2 year, our 4 year plans, and we identify when those projects are going to be let and open bids, the construction community is setting up their business plan and their business model to be able to staff it, to get resources, to make all their arrangements with property owners or whatever arrangements they need to do. And they're counting on our letting schedule as a guide to when they make business decisions to enter into agreements and hire people. And unfortunately, sometimes they need to lay people off because projects don't get let or begin construction as we set them up. So hitting those milestones in the project development process and getting the right-of-way and the utilities and the environmental certifications and everything leading up to the letting schedule is very important, because if that slides for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, that really can impact the construction community, and it impacts the prices that we get. It may impact the staffing that we get. Could impact the quality based on those things. And the more predictable we come and the more consistent we can become in delivering the projects and hitting our planned lets for a year and 2 years out, I think the better overall product we get.
Good information. All right, I got one more question, and then I'm gonna throw it over to y'all, so y'all start thinking about the questions that have been burning on your brain that you'd love to ask a district engineer, and you got 3 of them up here right now. But my last question, okay, I started out this discussion saying that district engineers are held responsible for project delivery within their geographic areas of responsibility. So from your perspective, what are the challenges for the districts on LGPP projects? Are LGPP projects more challenging than normal TxDOT projects? Tell it like it is, one way or the other.
I'll start on this one. And it sort of goes back to the last comment I just made about timing and working with local government sponsors. That at TxDOT and our staff, we're doing this on a daily basis. So it's like second nature for the most part for us to deliver the project. But when a local government is a sponsor and they're procuring the consultants and really responsible for a lot of those project delivery activities, they may not be familiar with all the steps and the bureaucracy and the approvals that need to happen to get a project delivered. So that's a challenge on not only the local government's part, but our part as well, because we're responsible for making sure everything flows through the system and follows all the guidelines that strings are attached to the funding. So I'd say that the biggest challenge is working with a local government that may do one project every 10 years, and those rules change. And if you did one 10 years ago, and even if you had the same folks in your office that have did that project 10 years ago, I can guarantee 10 years later the rules have changed both on the state side and the federal side, and you may have to relearn a lot of those procedures all over again. So it's a continuing learning process of us relaying that information to the locals, but then staying engaged, and we probably need to do a better job of walking side by side with the local government sponsors through the project development process to make sure that it does hit the milestones and stays on schedule to be successful at the end of the day.
I think Tucker's spot on. I just want to add just a few things. Whether we're working on a local government project or one of our own internally with consultants or even with our TxDOT folks handling the project, the stuff that keep you awake at night or stuff that you have trouble evaluating the schedule on. How long is this going to take to get my environmental document finished, to get the right-of-way for my project? Hey, I've got somebody that said I was going to donate the right-of-way. All right? Until you get that right-of-way in hand, all right, be careful. I'm not talking about any county that you might know about around here. Railroad agreement. Anybody, had any good luck with UP, would like to meet you. Be sure to tell Tony Love I said hello. Brenda Mainwaring, tremendous person, all right? but they're running a business there, folks. Is she who
No, but Michelle Maxud is leading that technical session at 2:15 this afternoon. Quincy, you might want to sit in.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'd be a subject matter expert. Look, folks, if you're in one of our districts, you know, we're running a lot of these projects through, especially in Houston. Every one of those projects has got an agreement. You know, we're all on the clock. I got 4 people down there working with Andy Mao doing agreements. All right, don't send a thing in halfway done, it's gonna jam up the whole works. Andy didn't pay me to say this, all right? Patterson will tell you other stories about, you know, making sure your paperwork's in order, all right? Little things like that become big things when we've got a ton of these projects going on at the same time, all right? Last but not least, I still think environmental, railroad, and right-of-way are stuff that keep you away from it. Thank you.
Those 3 have been on the top 10 list for probably the last 20 years. Probably, I think when I was around, you probably spent more time at staff meetings talking about project development and who was holding who up. This is internal TxDOT discussions. Well, if he would get me the environmental document, I could start buying the right-of-way. Well, you got the environmental, why aren't you buying the right-of-way? Well, because they're going to take me to the cleaners on it. So those two things are always, they kind of fight against each other. And for you guys and gals, I think it was Tucker that made the mention, you get to have this fun of developing a project for your local government. Hopefully you get to do it more than once every 10 years or so. Hopefully you're doing this more regular, but things change, and unless you're plugged in and kind of know what's going on, then you got somebody like David Milliken that's going to be out there, and all of a sudden you got to have this risk development assessment. And David didn't just fall out of bed one morning and decide he wanted to start doing that. It was handed down to him, and he's the guy that has to implement it. Okay, so that's part of, he's got the choice, he's the one that got to deliver the news. So he's in charge of that program. So that concludes the formal part. Any questions from the class? Come on. Well, Alan, you're more the principal. I'll get you. Let's get Stolites first.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Alan. So, Quincy, you brought up the UTP, and you know, the way we look at it from the regional perspective, is at least for my county, we always want to see projects in the pipeline. So when that next $1 billion falls out of the sky, we're ready to go. How do you see the relationship between what's going on in our region with HGAC and our TPP, our UTP, and its competitiveness against other areas of the state in terms of having projects, getting projects to ready?
Well, if you're talking about how competitive we are in the Houston district versus some of the other districts, I don't get to see that much, and I promise you that most of my time at work is spent with Prudnick and Eliza, and we're on the phone with Alan and David talking about all right, enough of that stuff, that's incredible, I'm sure, but hang on a second. All of us are busy, Richard. We're all humping it. We're all trying to keep things on schedule. One thing we didn't talk about is that we have been given development authority that allows us to go out and start doing design and looking at some things ahead of time, so hopefully we can get some work on the shelf. It's been a long time since we had anything on the shelf. We were told at one of the meetings in Austin recently that, I hate to say this out loud, that some of the bid prices were coming in lower than we expected, so we had some extra projects ready, you know, start identifying those. That's why it's important to have projects on the shelf. You can't have projects on the shelf if you don't have development authority to work on them. That's something we've gotten in the last 12 months. It's been very helpful. And here again, I can't stress how valuable the partnerships in this room are to the Houston district, all right? You guys are getting your stuff together, you're keeping it together, and if we need to do something forward, we can call on a couple of you, and I've got a pretty high level of confidence that 2 or 3 calls, we're gonna have 2 or 3 projects ready to go that might be taking place of somebody who's slipping or might be able to take advantage of, hey, there's a few extra dollars here. I don't know if I answered your question directly enough, but these are good times. Thank you.
Without a doubt, those that have projects ready they're in the catbird seat. It was that way 15, 20 years ago. It's probably more so that way today. Get your project ready. If the project you're developing is not scheduled to go to construction until 2019, get it ready today. Because, just what Quincy, I think he tried to allude to, he's got to be more diplomatic. That's one good thing about retiring. I can really say what I think. But you get a project ready, there's a probability or there's a chance that somebody else in the state, and for years we feasted off of the Metroplex, the Austin District. Well, that was our 2 big ones. They didn't get projects ready. They didn't have them ready. So the money needed to be spent, and you get a phone call about June or July. Hey, do you have something ready? So-and-so's not going to be able to spend their money. And we were always able to raise our hand and say, you bet we do. So use this project development authority that Quincy related to, that the department has now. Local projects, you get those ready just as soon as you can within the budget that will allow you to do that. It's always a good thing. Anybody else? Alan, did you have a question you still want to ask?
Yes, I was going to say, some of our local governments are willing to work today, even though they may not have a commitment for funds in the TIP or maybe even in a 10-year plan. What's your advice to a local government that believes they have a significant project and they want to try to do what Delvin just said and start working to make this project as eligible for funding opportunities as they can? What would be your advice to them about where to start?
Hold on. In your scenario, is this local, are they wanting to get reimbursed for what they've done?
I didn't answer that.
Okay, then y'all answer with caution. Go ahead. Patterson's back here taking notes. Go ahead.
I'm not sure, Alan, if you were asking that question to me, because I had a call this morning by a local government participate in a project. So I'm assuming it's a generic question, but the advice that we've given, even with that local government, that city this morning, was all of our projects need to compete, whether in our case it's with HGAC or Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission, or if we're competing for statewide dollars in the safety program or the bridge program, whatever it might be. All of our projects are scored, they're competing, and we submit those to get them ranked and see if they stack up. My advice to them is always, if a local government is willing and able to contribute funds to the development of that, that's only going to help the standing or the ranking of that project. So we would encourage that, but I would also caution them to say that without that being selected and programmed, there is a risk to the local government. You may take it to a certain point or expend some funds, and it may not come to reality in the time frame that you want it to be, or ever. So as long as we have that dialogue, and we know that they know that we'll work alongside them to get it to a certain point, we appreciate the participation and the offer to do that. And it's interesting because, again, I had that conversation this morning with the local government wanting to put forth some funds to get a project off the ground. So, did they reach out to you? If it's in HGAC, that's all.
I was going to say, I think they called Alan. Alan said, call Tucker.
Could be.
And I would say, Alan and HGAC are a tremendous partner and resource to us. We've been relying more and more on Alan for data, for planning assistance and that sort of thing. If you want to build a case for your project, one good way, at least in the Houston area, is he's got some data from some demographers that'll show you where we think the growth is coming, which is a lot in Harris County. You start building that, and you start looking at I guess we could use the L word out loud now, leverage. I mean, you want your project to score a little bit higher, can you help pay for part of it or do something in kind that, you know, helps make the project a reality. But the planning data that these guys just off the chart. Y'all hadn't been through one of their presentations, I'd recommend it.
Okay, got time for one more. Anything else? All right, Todd, you're up.
How is the district, therefore the district engineer, evaluated if y'all do not meet your yearly letting?
We don't look good. But, and that's one thing to realize, like Tucker and Quincy said earlier, you know, if you have to move a date or change a letting or move a project, there's a little more in the background going on than just moving that date and we'll relet it next month or 6 months later. There's a lot we have to go through in the district, and that follows up to administration has to go through. There's a lot of little pieces that go through it, a lot of strings attached to it. So, yeah, that evaluation time is not good when you start moving a lot of projects in the district, and it makes it difficult. I know with the local government projects, there's a lot more, I guess not to say hands-off, but a lot of things that we're not in control of, so it makes it difficult, and that's where we need that partnership to make sure that those dates, we hit those dates as good as we can and stay on track, because it reflects bad on the district, and like I said, that moves up the chain all the way to administration. Because you know, the TxDOT as a whole is rated on how successful we are on lettings per month. There's actually reports you can see, you know, how the TxDOT as a whole is making their lettings. So it reflects pretty bad on the district, and like I say, it'll carry on up too. So it's not a good thing.
Well, I would add to what Paul said, and this may be a little bit of inside baseball, but on a quarterly basis, or when we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we'll have a district engineers meeting in August, and we'll all be in the same room. And our boss will put up our individual district scorecards on the screen. And you're just sitting back there hoping there's not a lot of red marks on that, because it can get very uncomfortable in that meeting, in that room, when you're facing the other 24 DEs and trying to explain why you got a big fat zero in project delivery, or you only hit half of your let targets or something like that. It's not just letting, and all of our measures are up there, but it holds us accountable to not only our bosses, but each other, because I know I don't want to be the one with all the red marks on mine, so I want to have as much green on there as possible. So it's a little bit competitive that we want to make sure that we look good in front of our peers, but Paul's right. It doesn't look right on our scorecards, and that's displayed for everybody to see, at least on an annual basis for our supervisors.
The last thing I'd add is that I guess it reminds me how important our culture, our partnership is. We're all in this together. We work together, keep the whole program moving forward. You know, you're going to make some DE, whether it's this one or that one, or the one next to you, look really good if we're working well together. Okay? And early on, we talked about what happens if something's not going exactly right. I can't reinforce enough, just raise your hand and say, hey, this isn't going exactly right. Anybody got any ideas? Have you dealt with this before? Or how do we get this back on track? And then you start working on it early, no problem, all right? But if you sit on it too long, you can't get well over it.
Good stuff. Just for the record, that question about DE ratings, that was posed from Todd Thurber with LJA. Of course, I don't know, Paul, if you know Todd or not, but you want to talk to him at the break. You got any other questions, Todd? They did. What you got, Dave? No, I say we got time. Go ahead, one more.
No, you see this idea about the UTP, the new resources coming, it's a big number. A lot of work that's going to go into that. Make sure that we're all on pace. We spent time this morning talking about how the districts and the departments work with local governments to understand how much work they got to put in when they're working with them. Quincy, you talked a little bit about this health authority. Are there other things you can talk about that the department is doing, whether full scale or here at the districts, to help us make sure we're going to deliver that promise of $70 million for the next 10 years?
David, I guess the sense is that there's so much energy now at work. I mean, it's just, everything is energized. We spend a lot of time looking at schedules. Where are we? How is it progressing? I left the meeting this morning to go to another one of our partners to talk about, we're almost to the finish line on this. We've got to get to an agreement on this deal, and we need to do it right now. This morning, when can you meet? Or can you meet this afternoon? I mean, it's that level of intensity. Intensity has been ratcheted up, at least in our district. And I'm thankful for the staff that we have here at TxDOT. I mean, they're really busting their rear ends, and all good things are a result of that effort. So thank you for the question.
Okay, let's conclude this session. Just so you know, you can navigate from here. The next session begins, well, we're on break from till 2:15, but the next session start in room 105 and 106, which is through the lobby, through the doors, hook a right, and you'll find it. So follow your game plan, where you want to go, and have a good afternoon. Thanks for your attention.